And you want to make sure when you have added blessings, giftings, situations, circumstances in your life, that you don't allow it to come down to one thing. If you look at your marriage, if you look at your problem with your child or children or their school, you take their great big year of school or your whole family and you bring it down to an incident, right or wrong. And then if you don't look at the whole picture of your marriage, then you can miss out on how wonderful it is. If you focus it down to their blow it, or you focus it down to what they don't do, then you miss all the others that they do. All right? So I have a question for you, and I know that some of you have not reached this pinnacle, but some of you it was decades ago. But even if it was only 2 or 4 years ago, I want you to remember when you were in high school. Okay, everybody go back some period of time. Some of you may be still there. Some of you a couple years ago. Some of you 40, some of you 50, some of you look like it was 80. So remember when you were in high school, remember the perspective that you had at that time in your life. Think, and I don't want to relive my high school. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go to my prom again. I don't want to do any of that stuff. But if you could go back with the bigger picture that you have now, right? I can remember when I hit my senior year and I said, whoa, I'm getting to graduate. And somebody's going to look at my grades at a job or a college or somewhere. Whoa, maybe I better put a little effort in. And I pulled straight A's. Now, I could have pulled straight A's anytime during the thing, but from my focused view on sports and fun and, you know, right? You weren't looking at a big picture. And there are people that do that and they become the valedictorians. I never hear of them again. If somebody could tell me a valedictorian that really did something afterwards, I'd like to hear about it. But what's your point, Bill? My point is that remember when you were in high school? You had dreams and goals and visions, but they were way down here. And you wanted to get out, you wanted to go to the prom, and you wanted to get your hair done, and you wanted to ride in a limousine or whatever it was. And then, do you see this day? Did you see this day? No. Nothing even close. Not if, Nakana, how long are you out of school? 3 years since high school, and he had no, 3 years, only 3 years later, he had no concept of where he'd be today. There was no picture of it. And if you don't watch it, you'll do in this season of your life, your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, and you'll whittle it down to this. Some of you looking forward to retirement. Okay? Not my cup of tea, but again, that's their big goal in life. And then they get there and, wow, this was a good goal. But did you see this day that you're in? You didn't see it. You had no clue. No indication, no maybe. And the kids that are in junior high or high school, they have no concept of the big picture. Their big thing is whose friend gets to come over tonight and spend the night, and right? And I'm not trying to knock it, and I don't want to ruin everybody's childhood, and I don't want you to become 50 when you're 20. That's what I'm saying. But if we would have in high school looked at the bigger picture, if you would have saved $100 a month from the time you got out of high school, you'd have a whole bundle of money that would have multiplied. Okay, so see, big picture, if you would have bought gold at 320, if you would have bought Google, right? You see, you weren't looking at the big picture. You were looking at your situation right then. And I want to see if I can get you to expand at some level from here to here, or whatever you're willing to go out to. The more that you'll go out to, I have to look at the big picture and then focus on a portion of the big picture. But if I don't look at the big picture, I make decisions that can damage the big picture. Hello? You want to make all little decisions leading to big picture. All right. So let me show you. Let's look at God for a minute, okay? Let's look at him for a minute. In Psalm 139, verse 16, and this is in the New Living Translation. I normally preach out of New King James. When God prompts me, I go to some of the other translations. And you know what's the best translation to read? The one you're reading. The one you will read. The one you pick up every day and make it a part of your life. And here's God. You ready for God's viewpoint? This is God's viewpoint of you. Say of me. You saw me. Yes, God saw you before you were born. So we have all these little pregnant mamas around here. God had already saw that baby. He saw it before the baby was conceived. When and he, just listen to what he said. Every day of my life was recorded in a book. See, God knows every day of any one of those babies who you have, I guess they've seen them physically because they go for pictures. That's fanaticism. Anyways, God has already recorded in a book every day of that baby's life. Is God looking at big picture? You've never seen or held, you've never been able to hold in your arms that child. But soon, and very soon, this year, all these current pregnants that we know of are going to give birth, and then some father will start a college fund from the day they're born, and another one starts a soccer fund so they don't have to pay for college. And see, your parents do not have you in sports because they love you or sports. They're trying to save money. Anyways, but if they just put all the money they put into sports into a college fund, you wouldn't have to work that hard at college. Anyways, my point. See, big picture. What are they looking big pictures? Any of you involved in a 501, not a 501, a 401k? Some kind of retirement program you have? You're planning, you're looking at a bigger picture. You're taking part of the money that would be fun to use today, and you're putting it away for the bigger picture so that someday you'll have this source of revenue that will be in your life, right? That's a bigger picture. When did anybody eat a cookie today? I didn't personally eat a cookie. There's a couple. I see those hands. God bless you all. Thank you for your honesty. See, they weren't thinking of the big picture. They were trying to get big for the picture. No, seriously, because the cookie tastes good, true or false? I mean, come on. If you don't like cookies, something wrong with you. Pray for those people that don't like cookies. But when you eat the cookie, you're not thinking of the future. You're thinking of the now. I'm not trying to get anybody to stop eating cookies. I'm just talking about the fact that big picture, little picture. Cookie, little picture. Woo, those are Aunt Matilda's, hookabaka cookies. And I'm going to have one, and I don't care if it jacks my sugar up or clogs my veins or does whatever, man. Because you're not thinking of the big picture, okay? So you saw me before I was born. Wow. Every day of my life was recorded in your book. Every moment, wait a minute. Every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. Before these babies are birthed, every day is already laid out. God knows how, and it's not even God making all the decisions where that life goes. Come on, you made decisions that were not of God. But that every day is recorded, laid out in a book. We know that God knows every day of that child's life already. When's it going to be born? Oh, I hope it's today. God knows the day. He knows the hour. He knows the doctor. He knows the place. He knows everything about it. And it's all recorded. It's already laid out every single day of that child's life. Now, that's big picture. Now, that's a little bigger than I know how to go. But that's God. But what I'm saying to you, could you see if God lives that way and you're made in the image and likeness of God, then you should begin to want to go more. Listen, I have someone in my life that I say, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? I don't know. I said, okay. What are you doing today? I don't know. I'll figure that out later. Now, this is at 10 o'clock. Now, I'm not knocking. I'm not making fun of anybody. Come on, how many of you like that, right? Right? Okay, I get it. You know, you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants and seeing how the dust is going to settle. That's a little bit smaller picture than I would encourage you to walk in. I would encourage you to find out before you go to bed what you're going to do tomorrow. Right? If you want to go on a trip, you should plan it out. Start planning it out now if you want to do it this year. We're building a swimming pool over on our property, and it's a little bit of an endeavor. And I started the talking with the company last September. They never came to start the pool till June. Are you hearing what I'm saying? I was going to start talking in March. If I didn't hear God tell me, Bill, call now. Get started now. And if I would have waited till March, I would not have a pool this year. And I would have lived and nobody would have died and everything would have been fine. However, I wanted a pool this year. This was the year I believe I had to come and bring, and right, isn't this, everybody know what this year is? It's a year for your dreams to come to pass. Those things you've been waiting for to unfold. So if you're not married at the end of this year, give up. I mean, if you've been searching for it, you know. I mean, a bunch of these people wanted a baby. This is the year that it's happening. Come on, help me out here, see? Things that didn't look like they could or would or should happen are happening because God wants you, He wants to manifest Himself to you. So, where am I in this thing? I lost myself now. No, the pool. I'm talking about the pool. Is anybody tracking with me? Don't ever ask me a time again. Did I make it official? Don't ever ask me again. Did I give you a time? Yes, I did. You didn't put it up. Okay, I'm not mad. Just they ask me and then they don't do it. That's the best way to offend Billy is say, Bill, what do you want for dinner? I want pork chops. Do you have pork chops? Yeah, pork chops are great. And then what do you get? Biscuits and gravy and Salisbury steak, and those are all good things, but not, anyways. If I had not ordered the pool here, if I had not gone bigger picture, which didn't make any sense to me. That did not register with my brain. But because the Spirit of the Lord inside of me gave me bigger picture, I started in September. It took me 2 months just to pick out the colors and the stone and the concrete and the slide and what. Are you getting me? That it took me 2 months to do that. In fact, my pool would have started in May. If when I first started talking with them, I would have pulled the trigger. But in those 2 months, I went from a beginning of May to sometime in June. Big picture. Who gave me the big picture? God. I did not have that. I am a big picture guy, but my big picture comes from my big God. I want you to meditate on that scripture and realize that God knows where you're going. Why don't you ask Him and let Him help you? And then it'll be easier to commit your way to the Lord, and He'll do what? Direct your path. All right, Isaiah chapter 46, verse 10. I remember when the man stood on this platform. He was a preacher. He came to our church service. I never saw him before in my life. I did not know him from anybody from anywhere. And when I saw him, God said, there's the man that's going to preach in your church tonight. And the verse that he preached on was Isaiah chapter 46 and verse 10. First time I ever heard it. Isaiah 46, 10. Declaring the end, this is our God, the bigness of our God, from the beginning and from ancient times, things that are not yet done. See, God already declared my pool. All I did was hook up with God and declare what He already declared. See, that's why it's no strain. No strain to build it, no strain to pick out the colors, no strain to pay for it. Nothing's a strain because God had already designed and built and all these things. In fact, I had the picture of the pool, and I'd like to put it on display somewhere out at the pool that we designed 15 years ago that we never built. And this pool is very similar. It's not the same, but it's very, very similar. It's not an exact replica. but it was the design that we use to build. God has a design for your life. He has a big picture. It's all success. It's all good. If you get my newsletter for Bill Krause Ministries, I write on the goodness of God, and I show all these verses that show the goodness of God. And if you have anything in your life that's not good, didn't come from God, not God's fault. God already mapped it out. But you know what? If you don't go the right path and you get lost, it takes longer to get anywhere where you're going. Declaring the end from the beginning and from the ancient of times, things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand and I will do all my pleasure. See, God has already declared it. Jesus is coming back. Now, there's a lot of people wanting to come back today because they don't want to pay off their credit cards, their student loans. But he's not coming based on your student loans and credit cards. He's coming, and you know what? Jesus doesn't know when he's coming. Only the Father knows when Jesus is coming back. But if you talk to the preachers, many of them know. Come on. Some of you know. You're hoping he comes this week, so you don't have to make your next house payment. He can't come for a long time. How do you know that, Bill? Because I have not done everything he's told me. And I have a long list of things that he told me I would do. Now, I guess he could do them in 5 days. That's up to him. But when I see them all coming to pass, then I'll tell you, could be close. But right now, I'm telling you, I see a bigger picture. I see a distance. Now, Jesus, it doesn't matter what you say, he is coming back, and what I say, it's going to be some time before he comes back, because only the Father knows. It's already predestined. God knows exactly the day, the hour. He knows everything that's going to take place and when it is. Is somebody hearing me today? He already has the big picture plan. So you're prophesying and hypothesizing and thinking and dreaming and planning. Why don't you just pay your bills? Why don't you just get along with your spouse, hoping, my God, hopefully they'll rapture so I don't have to go through this anymore. And then Genesis, I want to talk about Genesis. Abraham was a small picture guy. His name was Abram. What did Abram want? He wanted a wife. He got a wife. God had to take him away from his family because you get locked into your homeland. Come on, you know what your culture, you know what your culture is. And you get locked into that, so God had to take him out of his whole entire culture and move him to a foreign place. And when he moved him to a foreign place, what did he want? He wanted a son. He didn't ask for 12 sons, didn't ask for 20 sons, didn't ask for 5 sons. He wanted a son. And he went to God and he said, now look, God, you know, here's the deal. Is this servant? Is my servant Jim? I haven't had any children. Is my servant Jim? He served me faithfully all these years. Is he going to inherit all of this, Lord? And God comes back and says, no, you will have your own son. And then he goes on to tell him that I will make you a great nation. He's looking for, come on. Most of you, when you got married, you weren't looking for grandkids. Help me, come, right? You weren't looking for great grandkids. See, God's making a tribe out of me. I'm believing for 100 great grandkids. Now, that's too many for you, and I get it, but that's you. I want 100 great grands. Now, it's not up to me. I can't dictate it. But do you understand? I'm thinking big. I'm building, dreaming, planning, thinking for those 100 great grands. So here's my point. Abram has to become Abraham. It puts the God in his name. Okay, he went from Abram to Abraham. And that put God, that was the God in his name, okay? Now, Abraham's looking for a son, and God says, I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great. He wasn't looking for a great name. And you shall be a blessing. I don't think he was a bad guy, but that wasn't his plan. All he wants to do is get married, have Sarah, who is Sarai, who becomes Sarah, right? Just puts the God in there again, the huh. Okay, you with me? And God says, I'm not just bringing you a one-off deal. Right? Because the one and the next guy has what? Thank you. See, they couldn't even get it when I held two fingers up, so I just want to show you, you're a much better Bible student than most of the people here. Praise the Lord. See, then, right? Abraham has Isaac. Isaac has Jacob, right? And Esau. Esau sort of messes this thing up. He was a non-tither. Sold his inheritance for a bowl of soup. I hope none of you are selling your inheritance for a bowl of soup. But that's up to you. It's your inheritance, not mine. My inheritance is, I have a trust fund. Okay, so Sarah, Abraham, one son. He was willing to give that sum up, believing in the big picture that he could put a knife to that child and kill it and then burn it, and then God would raise up from the ashes. Can you see a bigger picture here? He's got a big picture because God promised him a son. So he goes there. But then we have Isaac has Esau and Jacob. Esau is sort of a sidetrack. Jacob becomes heir to the throne. Jacob then what? What's he have? Good. Some of you beat my fingers. Jacob becomes Israel, gets his name changed. Gets his name changed. Did I mention that? Gets his name changed and has 12 sons. Then those 12 sons get fruitful and multiply, and then there's 70 of them. Remember 70 of them? Now remember, there were already some in Egypt. Remember, Joseph's in Egypt, his wife's in Egypt, his two sons are in Egypt, right? And then 70 of them take off. Can you see? And then they became, in the next few hundred years, it wasn't a few, biblical few is 8. In the next, right? God said he'd be there 400 years, right? Right? Okay, so there they are. They're there those hundreds of years, and they go out. There's millions of them, right? So one man, Abraham, I will make your name great. I will make nations of you. Big picture? Ladies and gentlemen, you can simplify your life if you'll start thinking big picture. That's the word that the Lord's bringing you tonight. Think big picture. Work on a portion of the picture. Think big picture. Then working on this, then come back and look at the big picture, see what needs to be worked on next. Come back to the big picture, then you see how you go back and forth? Because you're always going back to the big picture to keep everything in focus so that you're in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing with the right people for the right reason. Genesis 15. Abraham is struggling with this. He's struggling with this. You know, you have a son, then he has Ishmael. Everybody remember Ishmael? Some of you have falsified your future. You might want to tweet that, see. You falsify your future for engaging your own solution. We've all engaged our own solution somewhere. You falsify your future by engaging your own solution. All right, now, he creates Ishmael, and God says, no, this is not your heir. This is not the heir. This is going to be from you and your wife, not you and your handmaiden. And listen, don't ever blame Abraham. And don't think, his wife said, oh, go ahead and sleep with, Susie Q over here. And thinking that's just so he could have a good time. No, he wanted a son. See, a woman don't necessarily understand a man wanting a son. I'm not saying none of them, but they don't get it. Why we're driven, why we want a son. Because the son carries the family name on. Son takes that name and carries it on. That woman changes her name, and that doesn't make her bad. It's just that you want the name carried on. You want the home, the future, the tomorrow. And behold, so here's Abraham, and God says, listen, Abraham, I want to make nations out of you. You're a blessing. I want you to have this time and enjoy it and relish it and cherish it. And he takes them out of his tent and he says, look up at the stars. You will have more descendants than you can look up and see stars in the sky. And in our area of the world, just so you know, because I had somebody tell me this, because I used to look up and God said, you will have more ministers and ministries under you than you can look up and see stars in heaven. And depending on where you're standing in this area and looking up, you can see 2,000 to 3,000 stars. I automatically think of the bigger numbers, which means I'll have over 3,000 ministers and ministries under me. But so do you see how God, when I come out of my house in the morning, some of you are sleeping, and you never see how many ministries you'll have if it's counted by stars. And I look up, and every morning I look up and I say, Father, I praise and thank you for all the ministries and ministers that are assigned to be in my life and that I'm to have influence in their life. But God had to take Abraham out of his tent and tell him to look up. See, this one shall not be your heir, but one will come from your own body shall be your heir. Because, see, he put Abraham and Sarah together. And that was the one body, because Abraham was already the father of Ishmael. But Hagar was not supposed to be the woman, the mother. Can you hear this? And if you go look, there's still a war between Ishmael, who was a falseborn. You don't want to create falseborns in your life. And yet we do it whenever we get out of the will of God. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, this one shall not be your heir, but one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. Then he brought him outside and said, look now. See, listen to you. Sometimes God will talk to you inside and take you outside, because inside is limited, outside becomes unlimited. I drive down, every day. Well, maybe you don't know, but I'll tell you, every day that I'm home, and even when I'm out, I can now visualize. I've done it so many days. I can now visualize. I can stand in a hotel room, and I literally turn and I say, Father, I own all the property from here to Alberta. And there's always some nut job in the crowd, because they'll hear me. They go, what do you want all that property for? God put it in my heart. That's why I want it. What are you going to do with it? Whatever God tells me to do with it. See? But see, you're not confessing for it. Come on. And then I turned to this side, and I thank you, Father. 8609 is built and paid for. I thank you that 8611 paid. And I turn to the pool, and I say, Father, I thank you the pool is dug. I thank you that it's built. I thank you that it's landscaped. I thank you that it's fenced. I thank you that it's paid in full, right? And then I turn and I say, Father, this is exactly what it is. I say, Father, I praise and thank you for the 20 acres. And that I own them. They're mine. I thank you for the 29.62 acres. I thank you that they're mine. See, that's all, I can see that. When I do that, I can see that. Then I turn down here and I say, Father, I praise and thank you that 8615 is paid in full. See, that's my daily routine, whether I'm home in my driveway, but I'm outside. But I've learned now that I have to be able to do that inside. But see, many days I go home Elkhorn to 20th Street to, I think it's Q, but don't quote me. And I make a left, and when you drive there, there's all this land on the right. And there's all this land on the left, and when you see land, you go, land. Man, am I glad I don't have to mow that. I see land, I go, it's like second to a bulldog. Well, the Lord owns the whole earth, and he and I are one. And if you don't want property, there's got to be something wrong with you, because it's yours. Can you imagine walking out your brand new vehicle that you love, you like, you want, you've dreamed of, you've got the picture up, and it's out there in your driveway, and you go, no, that's not mine. See, I see land, I go, ooh, ooh. And then after this last time out of town that I was, they said you have to dispatch angels See, because when I come down Watt Avenue, there's this patch of land down here next to the Second Slavic Church, and I look at that piece of property and I say, Father, I praise and thank you that we own that property. And now I say, Father, I thank you that the angels are stationed on that property, and it's my property. It's saved for me. And then I go to the next big piece there, right, next to the post office, right, before the post office. And I'm driving down the street and I say, Father, I praise and thank you. That property is mine. I thank you that that is the grand entrance to the Family Senior Care Center. I mean, some of you getting old, man. You're going to need a place to live. I know it. And I'm having 4 levels of care. You see, which means you can go, Jim and Beth could move in there and live there. And then they could live in their own home, or they could live in a more like an apartment building if they wanted to. And they'd have their own place there. Do you understand what I'm saying? And then the next one is you go and they come in and take care of you a little bit. Then the next one is they come in and take care of you full care. And the next one is you don't even know they're there. Well, and everybody doesn't go through all 4 stages, but you see, God's built this vision in me for these people. And then I always said, well, but I'll never live there. You know what I started saying? I'm making me a grand palace on the inside of this thing. I'm going to call it the mega suite. So anytime I want a place, it's there. And if I have a guest, it's for can you see the vision's real for me? But see, those things are mine. Father, I praise and thank you that we own that property right there. And it goes all the way back to 34th. Then there's a building down here, 6230, 6253. What? I asked him to buy that years ago for me. He said, Bill, shut up. I ain't buying it. So I said, God, it's my property. He didn't want it. I'm taking it. I'll take his scraps. True story. Didn't I ask you to buy that 20 years ago? Can you imagine he'd own it all right now? He could buy his wife a brand new Cadillac every year selling that building to somebody, but I already declared it because he didn't want it. See, I asked Jeff for months to go in and Jeff, go into that neighborhood. Go into that neighborhood, get to work. He wouldn't go. I sent another guy in there. Guy took $100,000+ out of that neighborhood. Jeff said, I don't want it. I didn't want to leave it scrapped, so I found somebody to take it. Now, I'm not mad. God's not mad at Tim because he didn't want the property. He don't like property. Jeff don't like business. Well, he likes it more now. Yeah, he likes it much more now. But how many times did I ask him? More than once. Do you remember? Multiple times. He says, Jeff, I could just see big picture. You're driving by a neighborhood, you're going, oh my God, that guy should cut his grass. I'm driving by that and I can feel roofs need to be done, and I can feel siding needs to be put on, and windows need to be put in, and fountains need to be put in, and pavement